Last summer, a drunk Arizona police officer named Rob Gary Evans drove himself into a bar, flashed his badge to avoid pain cover at the door, then walked up behind a woman, put his hands up her skirt, and ran his fingers over her genitals. A jury convicted him of sexual abuse, a felony of maximum of a sentence of 2.5 years in prison, and Evans was fired from the police force instantly. Nevertheless, Arizona trial judge Jacqueline, who was appointed to the bench by Governor Jane Brewer, a Republican, decided that Evans' actions did not warrant jail time, sentencing him to probation and 100 hours of community service. Evans will also not have to register as a sex offender. Judge Hatch apparently did not view the cop's actions as serious, and she said to the victim of sexual assault in the trial, I quote, "If you wouldn't have been there that night, none of this would have happened to you," Hatch said. "I hope you look at what you've been through and try to make something positive out of it," Hatch said to the victim in court. "You learned your lesson about friendship. You learned your lesson about vulnerability. When you blame others, you give up the power to change." Now, I agree with the last statement that when you blame others, you give up the power to change. But in this particular context, in this particular situation, when I read this story, I actually threw my keys across my room and put a dent in my wall. I did this not because I have an anger problem. I did this because it genuinely offended and upset me. I'm someone who is really hard to offend. It takes a lot of things for you to say and a lot of things for you to do to offend me. But this story, this statement, if you wouldn't have been there that night, none of this wouldn't have happened to you. In other words, if that girl hadn't have been in a bar and doing whatever she was doing, she would not have been sexually assaulted by a cop who walked into the bar drunk and then wanted to place his fingers on her vagina. The reason this upsets me so much is because I'm a victim of sexual assault, and it happened to me when I was 16 and I was inappropriately touched by someone. And I can sit here and I will say to you that it's not because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Given that pathetic, stupid, moronic logic, if I'm walking down the street, no, better yet, if I'm driving to school, to college, on the street, and I'm driving my car, and I get hit, that's obviously my fault, because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Do you not see the stupidity of this statement, that if you wouldn't have been there that night, none of this wouldn't have happened? By that means we shouldn't eat food because there's a chance of us choking and dying. By that means we shouldn't walk down a public street because if we do that, we're going to be either sexually assaulted by someone or raped. Slapping this cop for 100 hours of community service is a slap on the wrist. But for her to say statements like this to a girl, a victim of sexual assault, that it was somehow her fault for being in the bar, but what she doesn't seem to understand is that whether this girl was here or not, it would probably still happen to some other girl. This whole concept idea that a woman invites sexual abuse simply by walking down the street or in a public space is so freaking repulsive that I don't even know where to begin on this topic. I guess what offends me the most about this story is that I'm somehow labeled as a man who cannot control his actions. That this woman is saying that this cop is not responsible for what he did. I'm sorry, but whether a guy or girl is walking down the street bare-ass naked, that does not give you the right or anyone the right to go up and sexually assault them, touch them inappropriately, or do anything to harm them, even if they're completely naked. It is a man's and a woman's responsibility to be able to control themselves, and it's Republicans, and I say Republicans not because I dislike Republicans, but because this judge is a Republican. It is Republicans like this and Todd Aiken who say, oh, there's a thing such as legitimate rape, and then this Judge Hatchett, stupid cunt of a woman, excuse me for that word, or I shouldn't call a judge that, shouldn't I? No, that's too extreme. No, it's not. That's what this woman is. To say that to someone. Let me tell you something about sexually assault victims. The last thing they need to hear out of someone's mouth is that it was your fault for getting raped. That it was your fault for a man sticking his fingers in your vagina. That it was your fault for a man inappropriately grabbing your penis or trying to molest you. It's all your fault because you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. In other words, the guy shouldn't take any responsibility for what he did. How does someone like this get in a position of political power? Can someone explain that? Are we so corrupt as a society that we get people like this? A woman. I mean, I could maybe understand a little more if it had been a male saying this comments, because I've seen a lot of males who try to excuse the whole act that if a woman is wearing provocative clothing, therefore she's more likely to get raped. Or that it's not the guy's fault because she's wearing provocative clothing and he can't control himself. If you're a guy, it's your responsibility to control your little Twinkie. I know I can. I've been celibate for almost several years now. Yeah, it's been hard, but I can control where I put my thing. I can control what I do. I can see a beautiful curvy woman walk down the street naked, and I can resist not wanting to touch her inappropriately. I can resist not wanting to rape her or sexually assault her. To excuse a man's actions based upon someone being in the wrong place at the wrong time is the most ridiculous line of thinking one can think. This doesn't bring healing to sexual assault victims by saying that it's your fault. What gets me so mad is because the perpetrator of me at 16 who's been dealt with, the perpetrator of me at 16 told me the same stuff this judge is saying, that it was somehow my fault for what happened. And I had to go into therapy, psychotherapy, in order to get my destructive line of thinking for what happened to me and to make me stop victim blaming myself of what happened. I don't even know what else to say about this story besides that this judge needs to be investigated for an ethics/moral charge. That's what we should have in our legal system. Ethics and moral charge. Because this woman, Judge Hatch, would be guilty of it. There's a link down below in the description. Sign the petition. I already did. My name's on it. You can find it for yourself. But right now it almost has 5,000 votes on the petition to vote for the injustice of this cop, that he deserves more than a 2.5-year sentence. And let me pull it up here. It's Arizona Supreme Court Judge Jacqueline Hatch should step down for an unjust sex abuse case. That's the title. Links down below in the description. Please sign it, because this is the type of stuff that needs to be abolished in our legal system. Victim blaming of sexual assault. That's not going to... I don't even know what else to say.